As I live and breathe, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to our fantasy football, talking about football, all good things football, here every Friday, 6:30, YouTube, Twitch, and good old Facebook, all live. So drop a comment if you're here, say what is going on. But of course, last week we had some questionable things, questionable, and also my good co-host, and he ended up going from questionable to out. But we, he's all 100% healthy. He is back, and I couldn't do it without him. My co-host, say hello to people, Mr. Joe.
I don't know which one of us is having internet issues, if it's you or if it's me, but one of us is having a little struggle. But what is up, everyone?
So of course you know that me and Joe bring you this every Friday, 6:30, for all your enjoyment. And what we usually do is we talk about football. So let's jump right into it and go with last week's results. So of course we had Tampa Bay, the Seahawks going against Tampa Bay, but not Tampa Bay at home. No, they went old to Germany. And Tom Brady showed Giselle why he is the best in Germany. And Bucks win and go 5-5. Your thoughts, Mr. Joe?
They did win to go 5-5. Looks like Mr. White. Fournette did get hurt, but looks like Mr. White is taking over as the number one running back there in Tampa. Presumably going forward, at least for the next few games. I know they have a bye, but yeah. Your boy Geno Smith came back down to earth a little bit, and now we need to see what they got going on over there. I think they also have a bye because of DK Metcalf, and he's not, he doesn't have a game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
But you know
two
what?
big swings there. The Bucks. Go ahead, tell
No,
me
no.
you watched football this week. I want to hear about it.
All the things. No, I thought,
I want to hear
this
about
game,
it.
I think Tom Brady, not fantasy point relevant, but like he put up a decent game for fantasy owners. And, for the struggling weeks, the first 8 weeks, him not hitting his stride, getting 12 to 17 points. It was good to see him put up a nice 20-point game, especially when quarterbacks looking horrible and going in Tampa, showing that they are the realistic choice to win the NFC South because the Saints have packed it in. The Panthers are horrendous, and Atlanta just doesn't know what to do with time management. So, I just have to say that this was a good showing on the Bucks. Both teams were on a bye, and I think that these are two formidable futures after the bye week. I think they have their shit down. Gino was brought down a little bit, but still credit to the Seahawks, making it work. Anything to add, sir?
Uh, yeah, like I said, now they're coming off a loss. They got a bye to heal up a bit and need to sure they still got what it takes to win this very winnable NFC West. Show me, Seattle, show me.
Let me tell you something. That's definitely a division to watch, ladies and gentlemen, because we all know that the North in the NFC is nothing to watch about. Because we're going to talk about that. Don't you worry. So let's talk about another division game in that same one. In the Lions winning 31-30. Lions still, fighting. God, thank God the Vikings are the clear winners of this division, man.
Well,
But
we knew
let,
that they play tough every week.
yeah,
Not
they
they
do.
don't always play good, but they play tough every week.
But when you have Justin Fields the last 2 weeks putting up fantasy numbers that Swift owners have not had in quite a couple of weeks, it's definitely good to see on quarterback end, but not so great for Swift fans. That's the only disappointment with this game. He did have a better one, but need more from him. And Justin Fields coming in on my bye week and doing the damage, still lost, but still put up points. Very happy to have him as my franchise quarterback for my dynasty league right now, looking like a smart pick.
Right now, but we need to, because I always say we need to see what they're doing. They need to gain an identity. their identity can't be Justin Fields running every
Yeah,
game.
but absolutely with that. But you can't tell me that 5 weeks ago that he was mentioned about being a starting quarterback. He was still figuring himself out. I'm just saying for right now, I agree. It looks more promising of the Justin Fields that we were promised so long ago. Not so
Let's get
long
some
ago.
actual stats on this game. Jamal Williams had another touchdown. I believe he's up to 9. Swift had 6 carries for 6 yards, which is obviously not good, but had a touchdown. St. Brown had 119 yards receiving, which is obviously very good for his owners. No touchdowns, but still.
But still putting up that double digits, what you want to get from your players. I mean,
Fields 167 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. 147 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Khalil Herbert got hurt for the Bears. That's going to be a minor problem because he's been the better of the 2 running backs between him and Montgomery. So that's a little hurt for the Bears, but again, they're not making the playoffs, so they need to build for the future, whether it's Herbert or Montgomery. This year is looking more
who would you
towards
choose
Herbert.
in this predicament?
Well, Herbert's been more dynamic. I think I would choose Herbert. We all know I have Montgomery in fantasy, but realistically, I think I would
But
hitch the
do you
wagon
know
to
what the
Herbert.
thing is? And I agree with you. Just because David Montgomery has been on the Bears, not saying the other hasn't, but just he's been always features as that dominant back, that RB1 slot. And I think that, I think it's time for them to maybe look to see, no, let's give this other kid a chance. But who are we talking about giving a chance? But the best team in the AFC, when I talk about the Miami Dolphins winning 39 against the Cleveland Browns 17. I mean, can you not argue that right now the Dolphins are the best AFC team? I know you can bring up the Chiefs, but I think pound for pound, when Tua is healthy and not getting rushed to the hospital after a concussion, he puts up numbers and he puts up points. I have benched Joe Burrow in fantasy, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to run with Tua, because Tua gets me the points.
Yes, Tua does. He threw for just under 300 yards and 3 touchdowns again. They just dominated this whole game. Jeff Wilson, newly acquired Jeff Wilson, he was a monster in the backfield. Not saying Mostert wasn't, but Wilson out carried him 17-8, 119 to 65 in yards rushing. We know what to expect out of the receivers. Granted, not monster numbers. Waddle was the leading receiver at 66 yards. Hill only had 44, but Hill at least had a touchdown. Sherfield with 63 and a touchdown, but they just move the ball. Doesn't matter, they'll find a way. Browns, nothing to really write home about. Peoples Jones, I think, had 99 yards. Yep, he had 99 yards. Nick Chubb had a touchdown. Only had 11 carries, though. Kareem Hunt only had 6 carries. Brissett had more rush attempts than he did. Mark Cooper only 3 catches. Not a recipe for success, especially when the Browns have to play the Bills this week. Luckily, we'll talk about that game later. But it won't be played at a blizzard.
Let me tell you something. Beginning of this podcast of this year, we were going over draft picks, me and Mr. Joe. Going back, saying why we felt we went one way or the other way. Just like to say that, against the odds, with everybody giving shit about Tyreek Hill and Tua and not being able to get that connection, let me tell you something. As a multiple league owner of Tyreek Hill, I mean, it is just great to see. And I'm just saying, there was doubtful, but I was very happy that I held out for Tyreek Hill, because I truly think that they have something great in Miami right now. I think right now, if I was a betting man, it would be Dolphins versus Vikings at Super Bowl. And I know you could say, oh, with the records, but point value wise, I think they just have the most dynamic offense, and they're just clicking in all the right directions. But we could talk about the Vikings momentarily. You want me to jump to the next game, Mr. Joe? Let's talk about those Broncos, Tennessee Titans. Tennessee wins 17. Broncos lose with only 10.
There wasn't even anything to write home about in this game. Because Derrick Henry didn't do a lot. He only had 53 yards rushing. I guess Westbrook Ikine had a monstrous game, 119 and 2 touchdowns. Other than that, nothing. Russell Wilson's slightly better than normal. No run game to be found on Denver. Murray was their leading rusher with 9 rushes for 24 yards. Melvin Gordon had 7 rushes for 24 yards. Chase Edmonds had 2 rushes for 9 yards. Not very inspiring in the running game, which is going to put more pressure on Russell Wilson, who's been a horrible all season.
Jerry
Cortland,
Judy not even scheduled to play right now.
yeah, he's definitely. I don't think he's playing. Cortland Sutton was their leading receiver with 66 yards. Kendall Hinton, who stepped in for Judy, had 62 yards. Like I said, not much else there. Tight ends had 1 catch for 12 yards, no catches. Chase Evans had 1 catch for no yards. Nothing to be excited about.
We'll sum it up. Joe's trying to say is it's exactly what I said last week, where it's going to be a 1-touchdown game because neither offense, if besides King Henry, will really do anything in this game.
Which he didn't do anything. And the sad part was that the whole Titans defense was out last week, and Russell Wilson could only muster 10 points against them.
It's not the Russell Wilson of old. Let's talk about a Super Bowl matchup last week when you have the Vikings taking on the Bills. The Vikings win, though. But talk to me about this game, Joe, because some crazy stuff went down.
Some crazy stuff definitely did go down. Buffalo had a chance to put the game away. They made a big stop and then got safetied. Kirk Cousins threw for 352 and a touchdown, but he threw 2 picks. Dalvin Cook ran for $119 and a touchdown. He had a monster game. Justin Jefferson also had a monster game. 193 yards and a touchdown. Not much else there to be excited about on the Vikings end. And then Buffalo, Josh Allen playing with an injured elbow. Threw the ball 43 times. Also, not pretty. 1 touchdown, 2 picks. He was their leading rusher, though, with 84 yards. Singletary had 2 touchdowns, but didn't muster much yardage-wise. And then receiving, they were essentially traded for each other. Diggs was traded for the pick that became Justin Jefferson, essentially. Diggs had 128 yards. Gabe Davis had 93 and a touchdown. So good for fantasy owners in that sense. If you played Singletary, Allen, Diggs, or Davis, you got some points.
That's what I was saying last week. This was a Super Bowl matchup. If you had the stars, you were playing them. This was for bragging rights. And like you said, look at Dalvin Cook having a great game, over 100 yards, touchdown. Jefferson, I mean, he's easily the number 1 receiver now in football. I mean, just 2 Diggs having a game, like 2 dominant, very good matchup because it just didn't work out at the end. But absolutely explosive for fantasy owners. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get access to this game, which I'm sure it's all over NFL Network and stuff like that, literally the last 2 minutes or so of that game were wild. Minnesota turns it over on downs. Buffalo gets fumbles in their end zone for a touchdown.
It shows that nobody knows what the hell is going to happen this season in football.
That is true.
Just like the next game.
Yep, go ahead.
The Giants winning against the Texans, but not surprising. We didn't really think they were going to lose.
Being such an elite juggernaut, you wouldn't expect them to lose. That's correct. And we had more of the normal. I believe the Giants are 7-2, and Daniel Jones has 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So yeah, not great numbers, obviously. Davis Mills had a decent game, for his standards, an above average game, but realistically, he had a decent game. Dameon Pierce had 94 yards. Tight end was their leading receiver with 72, Jordan Aiken. Nico Collins had a ton of targets, but not a ton of receptions. Had their own, I believe, their lone offensive touchdown. They do get some help. They claimed Eno Benjamin off waivers, which was kind of a little, to me, it was a surprising cut. I understand the Cardinals aren't going anywhere, but unless there was something going on in the locker room with him, I didn't see a point to it. Giants side, Daniel Jones had a massive game with 197 whole yards. He almost broke 200. It almost happened, but it didn't.
You would have to bust out the champagne, ladies and gentlemen. Bust out that champagne.
Saquon was a workhorse again. 35 carries for 152 yards and a touchdown. So
the question is asked then.
My take from this is a scary proposition. And this is what's happened in years past to the Cowboys. So Barkley's going into free agency. Giants have been good this season.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it would be fairly safe to assume that they're going to make the playoffs. They need to really implode to not make the playoffs because that's how bad the NFC's been. But with that being said,
Mm-hmm.
so Barkley's having an MVP. You know, running backs don't really win it, but he's having an MVP caliber season going into free agency, which means the Giants need to bring him back realistically. Same thing. Daniel Jones is going to be a free agent. He's not lighting up anything, but he's winning. So money's going to need to be spent one way or another with the Giants.
Who would you save?
I look at it as they're right now. The answer would be neither because they're running Barkley into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
When running backs have this type
I
of
agree.
season, and this is why I mentioned the Cowboys, they had it in years past with DeMarco Murray. They had it with Ezekiel Elliott, etc.
Mm-hmm.
After pounding him into the ground, I understand Barkley's been hurt, and that factors into this as well because he's been hurt. He's now approaching, totals that he hasn't approached since his rookie season. So, will he start wearing down? And will these 35 carries a game weigh on him for the future? So that's a scary proposition. Should the Giants go for it now while they're playing good? Absolutely. But will this affect their future? They end up re-signing Barkley. They do have some options. They could franchise tag him. He'd get about $10 million. Give him another shot and see what he's got next year. To see if he doesn't fall off the table. But it could be rough if they end up spending the money on him.
Do you think they'll keep Daniel Jones, or you think he'll be gone? The Eli Manning.
It really depends on if they lose in the first round of playoffs or their first playoff game. I could see it.
Giants get to the NFC Championship and lose to the Vikings. You're the Giants. What do you do?
Well, again, is Daniel Jones throw for 150 yards and Saquon Barkley has
we'll
35 carries? Or is
have-
Daniel Jones
I'll give
actually throw the
I'll
ball?
give you some things. Let's go 175 with a touchdown, no interceptions. And then for the championship game, he put up actually 220, 2 touchdowns, but he got 2 interceptions.
Then you would have to take a deep look and see who would be available and then base it off that. Because if nobody's available, then guess what? You're bringing Daniel Jones back for another year.
Exactly. There's enough
Or
Giants talk.
where you're drafting. But yeah, if he's not winning, though, it doesn't bring anything to the table. Justin Fields, who throws the ball, 20 times a game, threw for 167 yards, which is not that much less than Daniel Jones, and ran for 140 yards more than he did.
Listen, it comes to the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, that the Giants are the team to watch right now, just because what the hell are they going to do in this offseason? How the hell far are they going to get? This NFC is just atrocious. But what's better, and one of the better teams in the AFC, though, is Kansas City Chiefs, who won against the Jaguars 27-17.
Well, technically, they're the best record. They're half a game ahead of the Dolphins. Dolphins have a bye this week, so that will catch them up. Travis Etienne came back down to earth. He only had 45 yards rushing, but Christian Kirk with a monster game, 105 and 2 touchdowns for the Jaguars. Unfortunately, they couldn't muster enough. Patrick Mahomes, 331, 4 touchdowns. Did throw a pick, but 4 touchdowns. The bigger thing I took out of this game was Pacheco got some chances to run. They had named him the starter, and then they gave him like 6 carries. He got 16 carries and put up 82 yards, which is 5.1 a carry. So now they seemingly have a running game. I think the bigger thing now this week is Hardman went on the injured reserve, and I believe Juju's been already out. So it's Travis Kelce, Scantling, and Kadarius Toney, who caught his first touchdown last week. He had 4 catches. So he could certainly be more involved in the offense. So he's somebody to take a look at this point. With him going to the Chiefs, he probably shouldn't have been there, but that opens a door if you need somebody for this week. Possibly play Valdez-Scantling or Kadarius Toney and hope that one of them, because they are still a pass-happy offense. Mahomes, like I said, Mahomes threw for 331 yards. Take that flyer and see what they can put up. We'll move on to the good old Saints and Steelers. Obviously, that's why Pete left, so I didn't have to talk about this fucking train wreck of a team. So I will do it. The only positive coming out of it's not even really positive because Andy Dalton's better than Jameis Winston, is that it seems like the Saints are going back to Jameis Winston. Is it too late? Yes. Does it matter? No, they're not going anywhere. And they also don't have their pick, so that's what hurts more is I think right now their pick sits at 6. So the formerly, and we'll talk about this a little bit, the formerly undefeated Eagles have the Saints pick, which is at 6 right now. Quickly over the stats, because like I said, not much happened here. Andy Dalton, terrible. Alvin Kamara, terrible. The whole Saints running game was terrible. They ran for 29 yards. Juwan Johnson was the leading receiver with 44. Again, does not inspire anything. Steelers, who do nothing.
The Saints are absolutely a devastation to the NFL right now. What the fuck is going on in New Orleans, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, we should just pack it in because this is getting ridiculous. I mean, Andy Dalton is not the choice for the New Orleans Saints. Can we be clear on that, ladies and gentlemen?
Don't worry, they packed it in already because Jameis is starting this week, supposedly. So there's your packing in of it.
But that's what I'm saying. Besides Jameis, listen, everybody knows I'm not the biggest Jameis fan, but it's a fucking fresh eyes and a new guy who was working with us. Andy Dalton is not a quarterback like he was, and this is what I was saying for weeks. I was not saying I know I am a Taysom Hill lover. We know this, but let me tell you something. Taysom Hill may not do what Andy Dalton does, but at least he won't throw the interceptions. The Steelers winning, good for them. Saints are done. Let's leave it at that. I'd be surprised if they could beat the Panthers at this point.
They probably won't because at least the Panthers can run the ball.
Damn right. Hubbard,
you lead in the next game while I look up something real quick because
absolutely.
I just out of curiosity.
Let's talk about the Colts beating the Las Vegas Raiders 25-20.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but we know a new coach won in his first start. A guy with no coaching experience beat a team with alleged coaching experience. Fun stat. So Josh McDaniels is 9 and now 31 as a head coach, and he started 6-0. So he's 3-31 since then. We'll move along. Go ahead. Tell me what you want. You saw parts of this game. There was a running back. He did some stuff. You could tell me about him.
Which game are we talking about, sir?
Oh.
Good old Taylor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I deal with on a weekly basis. You led into the game and didn't know what game we were talking about.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Taylor. I know because I have Taylor in fantasy, and let me tell you something.
Yeah, and what happened? They let him run the ball. And what happened? He ran the ball, and he put up numbers.
He did his goddamn job. He was the number 1 pick in fantasy. Thank goodness. But why can't we get this every week? What I was going to say is because this is the Las Vegas Raiders, who literally is having the most fucking ridiculous season. Which, are you good? Are you not good? You fucking put up numbers with Devontae Adams. You have that good connection. You had some problems with Hunter Renfrow being on and off the team. I understand that, but right now, like, is this really a big win, especially with this defense? I mean, Jonathan Taylor was the running back we want to see, and I hope that come up when we make the predictions and his matchup, I hope that he also brings it. This is what I like to see from Taylor, but it can't be against this Las Vegas Raiders because he's not going to face the Las Vegas Raiders every week. But so good on him, but show me when a tougher team matches up against you. Say the Eagles come next week.
Yes, but obviously, so we're just looking. The negative, the downfall for the good old Raiders is that Devontae Adams might not be playing this week, so they can't win with him. It's going to be really hard for them to win without him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a scary proposition. We know they are bad, like I said. What's his name? McDaniels is 3-31 in his last 34 coaching games. I have no idea why he has a coaching job. But besides that, there ain't nothing to talk about in the Raiders. Josh Jacobs is going to do the at this point. I don't want to sound like an apologist or whatever. Derek Carr, maybe he's not the guy. Maybe he's the guy. Whatever. He's gonna play his heart out. Josh Jacobs is gonna play his heart out. And other than that, you know what? I'm not saying Devontae Adams isn't gonna play
But what
his
did we
heart
say
out.
last year?
But these
What did we
are
say
the
last year?
guys.
Do you remember what we said last year about Derek Carr?
He's a winner, or attempts to be a winner at least, and he's
He's a
the heart
locker
and
room
soul of their
leader.
team.
He's a locker room leader, and he can bring this team together.
Yeah, which he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then look, so Gruden gets ousted. They bring in I forget his last name, Rich, whatever his last name was, and they end up making the playoffs, right? They don't bring him back. They bring in Josh McDaniels, supposed to be some offensive guru, and he's now 3-31 in his last 34 games coached. What kind of guru is that? I'm not saying that this division was winnable, but think about it. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. The Chiefs are exactly what we expected. The Chargers are having a down year. Denver getting Russell Wilson supposed to be good. They're not very good. So there was opportunities for them to make the playoffs again. And where are they? They're literally one of the worst teams in football. So like I said, I'm not trying to be an apologist or whatever, but you know Derek Carr is going to give you his all. At this point, Josh Jacobs is going to give you his all. Devontae Adams is going to do his thing. And then other than that, on offense, what? Derek Waller's hurt. Hunter Renfro's hurt. Mac Hollins has been playing banged up.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't give themselves a lot of opportunities to do anything. So the stat I wanted to look up was just going back to the Saints. Jameis Winston's played 3 games and has 5 interceptions. Andy Dalton going into last week, yes, he threw 2 interceptions, also had 5 interceptions in his 6 games. So Andy Dalton, yeah, he's not the answer, but
nobody at quarterback right now for the Saints is the answer. We've talked about this. We have to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, that's a given, but you don't have your first round pick, and it's sitting here at pick 6, and Phillies, who still has the best record in football, even though they lost.
Oh,
the team with the best record in football is sitting there with the 6th pick. So good job, Saints.
Damn right. We only do dumb shit. I think we take it from the Jets. Cardinals winning against 27 against the Rams 17. My God. Rams, you are not the Super Bowl champions of last year. You are absolutely the Aaron Rodgers of last year, where you were MVP and now you just suck. But Aaron Rodgers pulled it out. Can the Rams, Joe?
We knew what the big issue with this game was. Neither starting quarterback played. So that's already not a recipe for success on either team's end. The bigger thing with this is Cooper Kupp got hurt. Obviously, he's their best player. Kupp got hurt. The Rams have no running identity.
I had to bench Henderson this week, ladies and gentlemen.
Cam Akers had 22 yards. Darrell Henderson had 21 yards. At least he got a touchdown. But they both had 6 carries and combined for 43 yards. Like we said about 16 other teams, that's not the recipe for success, especially when Matthew Stafford's not playing. If Matthew Stafford was playing and Cooper Kupp is healthy and stuff like that, you can get away with only running the ball minimal amount of times because you figure Stafford's going to, throw it all over the place. John Wolford threw 36 passes. John Wolford's not Matt Stafford. He didn't have a terrible game, but he didn't have, he's not Matt Stafford. The big takeaway from this game, like I said, was that Cooper Kupp got hurt. He literally had -1 receiving yards. He had 3 catches for -1 yards because all they were trying to do was get him screens, and he ended up getting hurt. So my biggest takeaway from this game is you might finally see Allen Robinson featured in this offense. He was their big offseason acquisition. Odell Beckham was hurt, so they didn't bring him back at the time. Allen Robinson was supposed to step up and take some pressure off Kupp and Stafford. Hasn't happened all year. It's been all Kupp and Tyler Higbee. Again, Higbee was their leading receiver even without Stafford. Allen Robinson was their second leading receiver because Cooper Kupp got hurt. So now can we see something going forward with that? I assume Stafford's going to play this week. On the other side, it sounds like Kyler Murray might miss another game, which I see Colt McCoy won. So who's the better quarterback? I mean, you don't have to ask me. I know the answer, but other people disagree. James Conner, 69 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hopkins, 98 yards. Rondell Moore, 94 yards. Weird that their top 2 receivers had a combined 19 catches for just under 200 yards with Colt McCoy at quarterback, not Kyler Murray. But
We've talked about that. Now he's a mid tier.
we won't get into that. AJ Green didn't do a ton, but he had a touchdown. So if you told me that
Oh, good
Hopkins would
old
get
from
10
the dead.
catches, but if you told me in a game, if you just told me, hey, Hopkins is gonna get 10, Rondell Moore is gonna get 9, and AJ Green's gonna catch you a touchdown, I would assume good things. The other major issue, again, I don't think Cardinals making playoffs. They're at 4-6 right now.
No.
Five wins is a wild card at the moment in the NFC, so it's not unrealistic. But Kyler Murray sucks, and now Zach Ertz is out for the year. So those two things, I think, are going to be too much to overcome them. And like I said, it's not like they're out of it, but they cut Eno Benjamin for no reason at all. So it just doesn't seem like they're trying to win. But yeah, they did win this game in the battle of the backups.
Damn right they did. Packers winning 31 against the Cowboys 28. Aaron Rodgers said, "Let me show you something," and he showed us something. Watson, his new favorite target.
He did show something. In all honesty, because everybody hates on him, what he did show me is he, for one game, and it paid dividends because they played the Thursday night game, so we'll talk that as well. He actually stuck with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Watson dropped, I think it might have even been his first 3 passes, or he dropped at least his first 2 passes of this game, both on the first drive, and I feel like he dropped his next one after, and Rodgers stuck with it. And Watson paid off huge in this game because they finally got somebody to do something. Prescott, 265, 3 touchdowns, but he threw 2 picks. That's part of what buried them. Tony Pollard was a monster. No Zeke again. Pollard had 115 and a touchdown, averaging over 5 yards a carry. CeeDee Lamb doing what I'm going to say, at least I expected of CeeDee Lamb. 150 and 2 touchdowns. Dalton Schultz had 54 and a touchdown, which is nice. Michael Gallup, another underperforming game, only had 3 catches for 35 yards. Noah Brown had 1 catch for 3. They need to spread the ball around a little more. I mean, it's great for fantasy purposes. I have CeeDee Lamb and things like that. But if they're going to win, as you saw, they lost a very winnable game to Green Bay. They need more people touching the ball, spreading the ball out, whichever. Rodgers only threw 20 passes, right? But threw for 224 and 3 touchdowns. Yes, a lot of that was on Watson making big plays.
But that was with Davante Adams. That was with Jordy Nelson. We're used to that.
Yeah, but again, he only threw 20 passes and got to 200 yards. Usually he's throwing 30 and 40 passes and barely getting to 200 yards. So Sunday he was able to do that again. But, if you hit the big plays or not, one way or another, if the big plays are working, the big plays are working. Aaron Jones was a monster in this game. He had 138 yards and a touchdown, averaged almost 6 yards a carry. A.J. Dillon, who sometimes I'm on the fence with this team because sometimes I feel like A.J. Dillon gets too many touches. Like if Aaron Jones is hot like he was in this game, Aaron Jones needs the touches. But Dillon had 13 carries as well for 65 yards, which is 5 yards a carry. I like the balance in this game. But other than Watson, Watkins had 3 catches for 47. Lazard had 3 for 45. Not great, but again, Watson had a coming out party at 3 touchdowns, his first 3 in his career, and that sparked a huge fourth quarter comeback because the Packers D was able to hold the Cowboys down in the fourth quarter and overtime, held them to zeros in both quarters, and ended up pulling out this win. I don't think it shows me Mason Crosby's stats on here, which is not anything to write at home. Okay, it did. He was 1 for 2 because he missed another field goal, and I talked about that in the group chat. Kind of being a smartass because they have things on betting sites where you can bet, like in Mason Crosby's over under for yesterday was like 6.5, and I was like, yeah, no way. But anyway, he made the field goal when they needed to make it. They end up coming back from down 14 to win. to keep their faint playoff hopes alive. Because, like I said, 5 wins is the final playoff team, final wildcard team right now in the NFC. So these 4-win teams are still technically alive,
But we still have 2
embarrassingly.
weeks.
So
Let's move on because you covered all the Cowboys and Packers. I don't even have to talk. I'll talk about them and the predictions. 49ers winning 22 against the Chargers, who just can't get a hold of a good fucking game. Lost by 16. I mean, they had 16. They lost by 6.
they did have 16. Herbert looked like Daniel Jones,
Mm-hmm.
196 and a touchdown. Austin Eckler nowhere to be found in the run game. Again, he's making his money in the receiving game, and he didn't even do much there as well. DeAndre Carter, 64 and a touchdown, is their leading receiver. Palmer, who's supposed to be their one with the big 2 guys out, only had 44 yards. Not pretty on the bright side for Chargers. Allen and Williams both practiced this week. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't need to do anything. Everybody was kind of ripping on him on Twitter. Who knows how much longer Twitter will be around for? But there's not here nor there. But there's like, hey, this guy's getting all the attention. A bunch of cheerleaders went up to him at a basketball game. He literally did nothing. But you know what? He threw for 240, which is respectable. It's better than Justin Herbert was. He didn't throw any interceptions. And then they did what they needed to do. So first game with Mitchell back, he had 18 carries. Christian McCaffrey had 18 carries. Second game, both of them in the lineup. Elijah Mitchell had 18 carries. Christian McCaffrey had 14. McCaffrey had a touchdown. Elijah Mitchell outrushed him by 51 yards. I comprehend he had 4 more carries, but Elijah Mitchell averaged 5 yards a carry, and Christian McCaffrey averaged under 3.
So do you see that San Fran is going to make McCaffrey their, power into the end zone type of running back?
I could see things like that. I think they'll try and keep him fresh, because we've always seen the last few years where injury concerns. He will be that explosive guy that they will try and get into space, whether it's running, short passing, wheel routes, whichever. Kind of like how they used Debo last year, which worked real effectively. I think McCaffrey will step into that role, which will allow Debo to be a receiver, and Mitchell will do the hard running. You flip that around. Brandon Ayuk was their leading receiver again with 84 yards. Debo, 24 yards. George Kittle, 21 yards. Not exactly inspiring. McCaffrey had 4 for 39, which gave him, 77 yards on the day. So not what fantasy owners are expecting. You got just under 10 points from him. Oh, I think I said he got a touchdown, so maybe he hit his projected. But
Well, he was. I'll tell you exactly. As a McCaffrey owner as myself, he was projected for 22.93, and nope, he did not get that. But he was a respectable. I believe I was at 16 or 17 with him.
Yeah, he should have been right around 16.
Yeah, so not like the worst, but McCaffrey, I feel on the San Francisco team can be a difference maker. And for fantasy owners, if you've noticed, his projections have been going up and up. So I'm hoping that he breaks. Like I agree a little bit with what Joe said, that I think Wilson will become like the more runner, where I feel they will have McCaffrey be the running back of power. But yeah, the thing that upset me about this game was Debo. Like, what's going on? You were the flashiest of flashy last year. Everybody loved you, and now you're getting outshined by McCaffrey. But that's my take on the game. If you let's move on to the Commanders beating the undefeated Eagles, and the Miami Dolphins of the 70s can relax because the last undefeated team finally lost their game.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question.
I love questions.
And you're going to give me the correct answer, or you're going to be doing the rest of the season by yourself.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Commanders won, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe I've said a few times. I wouldn't be surprised. They play tough. Who was the star of this game? Who had the big game for Washington?
I think that
Take a wild
McLaurin
guess. Terry McLaurin. Wow,
was fantastic,
it's
especially when
really
you get
really
that
weird that he had
43-yard catch.
really weird that he had 8 catches for 128
hmm
yards
But we've
with
talked
Taylor
about it for
Heineke
weeks.
at
It's the
quarterback.
Heineke experience.
And what did I say to all Terry McLaurin owners? But now, what's the better part? What did they say? Carson Wentz is eligible to come off the IR. What did they say? They said Taylor Heineke is our starter. So what does that mean for Terry McLaurin owners? You play him. If you have a chance to get him, you trade for him. The Commanders put up 32 points on the Eagles, who have a legit defense, right? Heineke didn't throw any touchdowns. Antonio Gibson had a rushing touchdown.
Which
I know.
is big for fantasy owners of Gibson, who's been putting him on the bench for weeks.
Yeah, he didn't do a ton, though. He only had 44 yards.
It's
But
still more than he's been doing.
true. But, so it's been, Brian Robinson was great in this game. And then you flip it over to the other side of the ball. And the things that I've been kind of saying for a while. And then I flipped the switch and I got on board and I said Jalen Hurts would be the MVP. And in a primetime game, you're undefeated. You're playing a 4-5 Commanders team, and you're Jalen Hurts, and you put up 175 yards. What? And not even just that. AJ Brown had 1 catch for 7 yards. What are you doing? Please explain that to me. Miles Sanders had 12 rushes for 54 yards, which is 4.5 per carry. Acceptable.
Listen, for Miles Sanders, he has definitely been producing more than fantasy owners would be expecting this year.
Of course. But it's not like he ran the ball 35 times like Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones throws for 170 yards. He ran it 12. And
No,
Jalen
I
Hurts threw
understand.
for 175 yards.
Yeah, I understand.
And their leading receiver is Quez Watkins with 80 yards and a huge fumble. That literally ended up costing him the game. But what I'm saying is, you're Jalen Hurts, and you're looking to be the front runner of MVP. You're 8-0 playing a Monday Night Football, and you come out and you put up this. Now that concerns me. I need to see him back to that form. Dallas Goedert got hurt in this game, which obviously hurts. He did have a touchdown, but at the end of the game he got hurt. Things like that. So if you're out Dallas Goedert, you need to. AJ Brown needs to have more than 4 targets. He had 1 catch for 7 yards on 4 targets. A lot of people overvalue him. I'm not gonna lie, because I've seen it, and I've seen a thing talking about Richard Sherman that said, "Oh, how many 100-yard games does AJ Brown have?" A lot, and the answer was 2, which is not a lot. But
Not at all.
you traded for this guy. I understand you're 8-0, doing your thing, but in a game where you're playing a team in your division, so you know them, you're playing on Monday night. You want to show out and show that you're the best team in football. I would think AJ Brown needs to get more than 7 yards receiving.
I agree. I mean, why would you not want to? I mean, already on the Eagles, AJ Brown has been dominant. Forget Tennessee, he has been dominant in Philadelphia. And for fantasy owners, it was devastating to watch this.
But again,
And to the
he
Eagles
hasn't been that dominant, and that's the point. Is everybody's overvaluing him? He has not been as bad as the Titans were in the passing aspects. He was more dominant there because obviously Derrick Henry set it up for him. I'm bringing up his stats right now.
As you do.
Granted, he only played 13 games last year, which sucks. He averaged 14 yards a carry. The year before that, he per catch, 15.4 per catch. In 2019, he averaged 20.2 yards per catch. That's huge, huge. Now he's out here getting 7 yards. Why? Tell me why he's only getting 7 yards. I just want to let everyone know that NFL.com is absolutely horrendous. Trying to look up stats because it told me AJ Brown had 5 catches on the season.
Oh God, I love it.
So I need
So
to
it can't
go
be as
to.
worse as ESPN. Let me tell you.
No, these numbers are rough. I literally had to go into Jameis Winston and fucking. Not that it's hard math, but literally had to go do the stuff myself because it told me Jameis
You do
Winston's
math
stats
now.
on
What are you
his,
talking about?
but it told me Jameis Winston's stats on the season where he had 2 rushes for 5 yards.
Damn right he did.
So he didn't throw the ball in the 3 games he started. He never tried to throw the ball. He just ran it twice and that was it.
No, it was the Taysom Hill effect.
Like what the flying fuck are they doing at NFL.com? NFL, the thing that it's named after. The sport is literally named after it. So here, now I have legit AJ Brown stats.
Oh, I was worried. We were never gonna get those from the fucking NFL website.
Clearly. So if you take away that 3 touchdown game, he has 3 touchdowns. So like I said, that's 9 games. If you take away that, that's 8 games, 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
So that's not you wouldn't think that. You would have thought he would have had like at least 5 or 6. You throw that 3 touchdown game back in there, yes, it looks a lot better. He has 6.
Mm-hmm.
But push comes to shove, you were an 8-0 team without him being
Can you
completely.
give me the yards?
Tell me where you want to start from. You want the whole season or
Yeah, week 1 through 10. Give me the yards.
So
Total yards.
week one, huge game, 155.
Okay.
But what did you tell me about before with Jonathan Taylor?
The defense and the team you're playing factors in. I understand
He
that.
played Detroit week 1.
Okay, 100%.
He played the Vikings week 2. He had 69 yards.
Okay.
He played the Commanders week 3. He had 85 yards. Not terrible.
Mhm.
First touchdown of the year.
Okay.
Week 4, he played Jacksonville. Again, we're not talking about world beaters here. He had
No,
95 yards.
Well, they've had an easy schedule. I understand.
95 yards, no TDs.
Okay.
Then they played Arizona. He had 32 yards against Arizona.
Okay.
Arizona. So anyway, Dallas, he had 67 yards and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh, he had 156 and 3 touchdowns. Houston, Houston, like they're really good. He had 59 yards. Houston, right? Dominating Texans, 59 yards. And Washington, who he put up 85 yards against in his first game, put up 7.
Learns from his mistakes.
So, if you were to, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. I would take. We'll round up because I got 2 half games. So 5 out of the 9. 5 out of 9. I would say he was at his average or better. So not terrible, but not. If I could pull up a game log of last year, I feel like last year's at least would have been a lot more consistent. Obviously we can't get that from NFL.com, but let's see. AJ Brown 2021 game log. Cool. 2023 game log. Love it. But clearly we can't get any form of anything. But go ahead, carry me into next week while I'm looking up this train wreck.
But next week, you mean yesterday, we had the Titans take on the Packers at home. Will the Packers magic continue? No, because they lost 27-17. But good old Watson, I believe, got 2 touchdowns.
Watson did get 2 touchdowns. Didn't kill it with yards.
No, but 2 touchdowns for fantasy owner, got 20 points.
Yes.
Very nice if you played him like myself.
Yes, so like we're saying, he's now played 2 games in 4 days and has 5 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So simple as that.
He's the new guy. He's the Jordy Nelson. He's the Devontae
I would
Adams.
say so. I think Lazard is now relegated to the 2.
Mm-hmm.
And if they run the ball, and use the running backs, Lazard it might even be 3 on the pecking order. He hasn't done anything the last 2 weeks, which is that starts becoming a trend. So that's not good for them. So again, Watson seems to be the one. Good on them. They were Packers are favored. Don't know why, outside of it being a home game.
Because
Titans
of
went
that
up.
matchup they had last week. They're riding the momentum.
Yeah,
And with
sure, but the same thing.
Mhm.
The things that give you, that's part of it. That them being at home and the Titans defense being banged up were the three factors into why they were favored. Multiple times, the Titans took double digit score leads in that game. Derrick Henry is what he is, and Derrick Henry is coming off a weak game. By his standards, the week before, and he didn't kill it yardage wise, but when he needed to do something, he was that guy he needed to be. Yeah, he got stuffed down on the goal line towards the end of the game, but they ended up scoring off of it anyway, so it didn't really matter. Again, they're just a better team. They're in a weak division, and it showed that the Titans were a much better team. Ryan Tannehill, go figure, had a huge game. Traylon Burks, who is the new AJ Brown,
Hmm.
put up 111 yards. So good on him. Good on Tannehill. Good on him. Derrick Henry had 87 yards and a
And a
touchdown.
touchdown. Yep.
Grabbing the box score now. So 3 yards of carry, but how do I word it? Normal running backs, you want 4 or 5 yards of carry. For them to feel like they have a good game. With Derrick Henry, if he's giving me 3.5 yards per carry during that game, I'm okay with that because he wears you out. You don't wear him out. He wears you out because he's constantly running you over, knocking you on your ass, all the things like that. He also threw a touchdown in the game. We forgot to throw that in there. But so again, he wasn't averaging 4, 5, 6, 7. He wasn't putting up Tony Pollard numbers with yards per carry. But with him just running you over nonstop takes its toll on you. And late in the game, if they wanted to score, they could have, but it's late in the game and they could take the knees in the game. They ran play action. It was right before the 2-minute warning, so you were getting a stoppage anyway. So they decided to throw the ball. So everybody's looking for Derrick Henry to run the ball, and Tannehill hit Burks on a bomb. That is what Derrick Henry does for Ryan Tannehill. And that's why if Burks can do what he did this week, then you know what? That trade is fine. Because he's a lot cheaper, things like that. You can bring in more talent because it won't cost as much as AJ Brown. But Ryan Tannehill was 22-27 for 333 yards. That's not what you're expecting out of Tannehill, but 22 of 27 is what you expect out of Tannehill. So, like I said, Derrick Henry setting him up for that and plays like that where he's able to hit a big play because everybody's so worried about Derrick Henry. It's huge. Huge. And that's what's going to take them places come playoff time. Robert Woods actually showed up, which was nice to see.
He had a decent game. Yep.
He's done nothing all season. Austin Hooper had 2 touchdowns. One, obviously, like I said, was thrown from Henry, but either way, he was good. Westbrook Ikine, who was really good the week before, nothing this game. So they're not a one. The one dimension is Derrick Henry, but when push comes to shove, they're not just straight up one dimensional. Burks got 7. Woods got 6. Hooper got 4. Derrick Henry got 28 rushes. They moved the ball around. Packers side, Cobb was their leading receiver. Not, at this point, not a recipe for winning. Lazard
no,
at
years
57.
ago, yes.
Yeah, years ago, sure. Cobb at 73. Lazard at 57. Watson, he had 2 touchdowns, only had 48 yards. Aaron Jones had chipped in 6 catches, but he only had 12 carries for 40 yards. A.J. Dillon only had 6 rushes for 13 yards. And we say it every week. Not a recipe for success. Rodgers didn't turn the ball over. He only got sacked once, so they should have been better.
That's what you could say about the Packers. But they ain't winning the division, so it don't matter. And you know who else isn't winning the division? The Bears, when they go take on Atlanta.
Yeah, but it wasn't about winning the division. Like I said twice already, 5 wins right now as a playoff team in the NFC, and the Packers are sitting there at 4. It was a home game playing against a banged up defense. They get that win, they're tied for the final wild card. Tiebreakers, still a bit of a way to go, whatever. At least you feel like you have some hope. You have the reigning MVP, all things like that. Instead, here you are now, minimum of 1 game behind. Yeah, lead me into the new games.
We got, like I said, the Bears against Atlanta. This is going to be absolutely horrendous, I feel. What can you say? Kyle Pitts, can you fucking show up for one goddamn? You had one good game. You had one good game where you hit double digits, and since then, Mr. Kyle, you haven't done shit. And that's what I would like to talk about, Jay, is why Kyle Pitts has not worked out for fantasy owners, and if he can make an impact on this Bears team to maybe give them some, I don't know, fucking hope.
Well, the answer to your question is quarterback play. The year before, nobody's saying he was great the year before. He obviously was better that year than this year, but Matt Ryan wasn't good. And now you bring in a running quarterback. Doesn't set you up for success. So with this game, Bears have been playing much better, but they're 3-7. Falcons are 4-6. It's a home game. Again, the Falcons win. That gets them to 5 wins. They're right there on the edge of making the playoffs. Nobody's saying they're going to make the playoffs, but for the fans' sake, you give the fans something to be excited about. But the way the Fields has been playing the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, it looks like there's no way in hell that the Falcons are going to be able to hang with them. I want to, because it's an indoor game, want to go with there's going to be a lot of offense in this game. But last time I thought that, one team provided offense and the other didn't. So, realistically, I think this is going to be a good scoring game. And like I said, I thought that with the Panthers game, and Cordarrelle Patterson did nothing, and none of the running backs did anything. So, maybe it's, the pressure of, a podcaster with like 4 viewers puts on the Falcons. I don't know. But whatever. Put up some numbers. Make me feel good that these two teams can do something.
All right, 35-28 is my answer.
I ain't even putting up numbers because there's going to be 7-6, and then I'm going to be like, what the fuck?
So. Exactly. Eagles going to the Colts. Eagles coming off their loss. Their undefeatedness is gone. But here you have the resurgence of Jonathan Taylor. Do we see Taylor putting up a good combatant against this Eagles defense, or does A.J. Brown put up a 100-point game here against the Colts defense?
I don't. If your question was who would be better, A.J. Brown or Jonathan Taylor, my answer for this week is Jonathan Taylor.
Oh.
Overall,
expound.
The game's indoors, better for running. I mean, it's better for all assets of the game, but it's indoors, so that's good. The Eagles' pass rush is pretty solid, so that's why I think Taylor leads into being better. Colts coming off momentum, new coach, they're 1-0 under him. He pounded the rock, let Taylor do his thing, and I feel like he may just stick with that. Why wouldn't you? You won. Eagles, obviously disappointing. They lost their undefeated season. Jalen Hurts got something to show. I don't know what they're gonna do in that. Do they panic and take the ball out of his hands and try to run the ball more? What do they do? Yes, AJ Brown. God, I would love to just say will be more involved, but he definitely should be more involved. I'd hope he's more involved than getting 7 yards, but I don't know what the Eagles' strategy is for this game. Like I said, Dallas Goedert's out, so the receivers should be in line for a decent day, but because of Goddard being out, do they rely more on the run game? Would be my bigger concern.
Colts 21, Eagles 17.
There you go. So
I think 2 touchdown Jonathan Taylor game is coming. But what I also see coming is resurrection when the Jets upset the Patriots at home in New England. Do you think this is the time to go back to Belichick and say, you beat us earlier in the season, but we're the better fucking team?
Well, let's start out again, and I'm not the only one. And Patriots fans will say their nonsense. The Patriots didn't beat the Jets the first time they played. In the record, it says the Patriots beat the Jets, but Zach Wilson and the referees beat the Jets. So the Jets beat the Jets, the referees beat the Jets. So if this game is played exactly like that game was, and you take away the gray area of the referees, then yeah, the Jets are going to win this game even though it's on the road. Jets are 4-0 on the road. So being on the road is not something that scared this team. The
Division
Patriots haven't been very good, overall, hence why they're in last place. But this is definitely a winnable game for the Jets. They've been a little banged up on D, but they've added some other pieces through waivers. They got an offensive lineman back that they had last year who's also a doctor, so he's been working in Canada. They got him back, so that'll give him, I don't even know if he's going to play this week, but overall that gives them more line depth, which will help their running game. We know they don't have Breece Hall, but that's a dimension that gets the ball out of Zach Wilson's hands so that he isn't throwing nonsensical interceptions instead of throwing the ball away. So is this a game they should win? Yes.
Will they?
I need to see them win it. I need to,
Will you believe if they beat the Patriots?
You have to then, because they're going to be at 7 wins, and the AFC wild card, granted, is better than the NFC wild card at the moment, but
not by much.
If you're sitting here at 7 wins, you're feeling pretty good.
I agree.
The problem is if they lose this game, they fall to last place because the Patriots will have beaten them twice already.
Very true. Very true. Let us talk about a team that has defined the odds. When we talk about the Washington Commanders marching over to Houston and beating the shit out of the Texans like Giants did last week, is that what we're going to see with the Heineke McLaurin, like we said earlier?
I mean, we should. This should be another game that the playmakers should get their, Pierce should get his fantasy worth. McLaurin should get his fantasy worth. Depending on which one or both running backs the Commanders might get their worth. I really don't see too many people playing Heineke, but you're gonna get your points in this game because the Texans aren't great defensively. The Commanders obviously aren't. They're more of that bend but don't break defense, so they'll give up some yardage, but
they'll also put up
stop you at the end. So yeah, so you get your points. I mean, if you're playing a Houston receiver, you're probably in bad shape this week, and that's why you are. So you're hoping to get lucky. Other than that, you're not looking for a ton of this game. You're just looking for the big names to get their points.
Yeah, that's 100% what I would say. You're looking at, McLaurin to get 15 plus. And like we said earlier with the Heineke to McLaurin fantasy owners, I know earlier in the season we were looking a little shabby, a little bit unsure, but it definitely looks like McLaurin is going to work out. So definitely a must play. I feel 28-7 Commanders. You heard it here first. And an unrelated note, let's talk about a game for about 30 seconds only. The Rams go into New Orleans to take on the Saints. Who's going to win? Who the fuck cares? Both teams are atrocious, a mess. Cooper Kupp's not there. I mean, what are you doing in your running back? Are you playing Henderson, the Rams? And then let's talk about the Saints. Jameis Winston's coming back. Oh, thank Christ. Andy Dalton is going to go on the fucking bench. But now, what does that mean for the offense? Who does he look at? Does Kamara lose touches? Does he gain touches? What is this Saints offense going to look like when we face a broken down Super Bowl team of last year? This is going to be an ugly game at the end of the day.
Yeah, this game is fully nonsense, and I don't even really want to talk about it just because it's so embarrassing.
That's why I said 30
the Saints need to do what the Giants are doing at this point. We're sitting here, we all know Alvin Kamara is getting suspended. They need to run him into the ground. Either that or they need to just completely pack it in and Again, playing for the pick gets you nowhere because you don't have your pick. Philly's sitting here with your pick. So at this point, and they're an NFC team, so you need to try and win just because you don't want possibly the best team in the NFC sitting here with a top 5 pick. But in the other sense, having other picks, you want them to be as high as possible. So it's like, what do we do? There's no right answer to this. They're literally a team in limbo, just sitting there waiting for the season to be over and hoping to do something in the off season.
But do you agree that you don't know what to expect with Jameis now coming back?
I mean, the expectation's probably going to be, what the expectation's been with him essentially since he got drafted. He's going to make some bonehead plays. He may make some huge plays, but he's going to make some bonehead plays.
At 30 for 30.
Which one outweighs the other? We'll find out.
Come Sunday. And we will also find out when the Bills host the Browns in Ford Field, Detroit for 2 weeks because Buffalo is under 6 inches of snow. And that shit, if you've not seen, ladies and gentlemen, go on the NFL Instagram because at least the NFL Instagram works. You could see an insane stadium covered in snow. But let me tell you what this game is. This is Josh Allen saying, this is not going to happen. You're the Buffalo Bills and you drop to third. Can we talk about that for a second, ladies and gentlemen? You are the Buffalo Bills, one of the head honchos for going back to the Super Bowl, going back to the AFC Championship, going back into the playoffs and being that dominant team next to the Kansas City Chiefs, and you were. But let's talk about the real ice. Look at what's going on in the AFC East. You have the first place Tua, Magic, Hill, Magic, Waddle, Miami Dolphins going all the way in the AFC East. You have the Jets, an unpredictable team. Nobody thought this coming. So you have contenders here, and especially with the Jets playing against New England, going into their home turf, saying, no, we're here to play. Buffalo, you need to turn it up. And I think that Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Singletary, whoever you want, is going to bring it this week against this Browns team because at the end of the day, Nick Chubb fans, great, but Bills have to make a statement, and this is their statement game. Or the Bills are done.
Well, they're obviously not done because making the playoffs again in the AFC, just like the NFC, seems to be a lot easier this year. There's a lot less going on. I pulled up the Dolphins schedule just to see. So the Dolphins Bills still play each other one more time, which that I could have given you the answer to.
Home field.
In Buffalo.
Thank you.
Other than that, they come off the bye, they play the Texans. They play the 49ers. Okay, so that's a rough one. They play the Chargers, who had a rough season. And like I said, the Chargers are hovering right around a wild card. They play the Packers. At that point, they could be done. They'll probably be done if they keep playing like this. And then they play the Patriots and the Jets to end it out. So there may be a couple big games to play for. There 3 of the last 4 games are Bills, Patriots, and Jets, all AFC East teams. But the Bills have a tougher schedule. So, the Bills need to handle their business. They're not playing in 6 feet of snow, which is huge for them. But you flip it around. The Bills have the Patriots twice. It could be good, could be bad. They have the Bengals. They have the Bengals on Monday Night Football.
Bengals haven't been showing up.
They haven't
to
been.
The extent that they have been.
They haven't been, but say nothing goes wrong in that time. At that point, they have Jamar Chase back and things like that. They had the ball rolling with Chase before he got hurt.
Yeah, but now he's out. That they looked,
but they looked a lot better right before he got hurt. And they have the firepower. Joe Mixon literally lit it up 2 weeks ago. So that's not a cakewalk game. The Bears, on paper it looks really bad, but Justin Fields is playing really good. So the only cakewalk games that the Bills look like they have are against the Browns and against the Lions.
I'll put a score on this. I will say 42-27. Bills. I like that. What I also like is the Panthers going to get demolished by the Ravens. Mark Andrews, you coming back, buddy? We need you. Tight end fantasy owners need you.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen anything. I did get an alert this morning about Lamar Jackson being questionable,
If you talk to the people
which is
for a second, I can tell you.
nonsense. I can
Talk
talk
to
to
the
the
people,
people
buddy, I got you.
forever. The problem is that I'm off lost in Narnia looking at something else.
Kittle's projected for 10 this week. Get the fuck out of my face.
projected for
Mark
10
Andrews, as of right
for
now,
10
is
every week.
questionable. He did shoulder practice. He did participate full. So all points say
So
that he's going to be playing.
So he's playing, exactly. So, but just back to my point about this. So, top 7 teams make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I asked you right this second, who's the 7th seed in the AFC? Who would you think it would be?
In the NFC, the 7th seed?
No, the AFC.
The AFC. At this current time, I'd probably say the Bills.
So the correct answer is the last place New England Patriots would be the final playoff team in the AFC right now.
My God.
So, like I'm saying, is yes. So the Chargers and Bengals are 1 game behind. Things like that. But I'm just saying is right this minute, if playoffs started right now, the New England Patriots would be the 7th seed, and they're in last place.
The whole AFC East. That's great.
Yeah,
love to see that.
And in the NFC, who would, just out of curiosity, who would you tell me was the 7th seed in the NFC?
Oh God, I think I saw this the other day. I would probably say, probably the Commanders at this point. Commanders are like,
they are the first team out.
No, San Fran. I would go
San Fran because they're 5-4 and the Commanders are 5-5.
So yep, 100%. You're right.
This I'll give ESPN. It tells you like the breakdown. So right now, like just as an example, we're talking about like it's only 5 wins because San Fran's the final playoff team with 5 wins right now, and the Falcons, Cardinals, Packers, etc. have 4 wins. So right now, the Falcons would have the tiebreaker over Arizona based on better winning percentage in conference games, stuff like that. So when you're going up against teams that aren't in division, these are some of those wonky tiebreakers. So, these teams aren't out of it because they have tiebreakers over other teams just because either, they play worse against their division or whatever. Like right now, like I said, the AFC, the Patriots, the Chargers, the Bengals are all technically tied at 5-4. New England wins a tiebreaker over Los Angeles based on strength of victory. Wins tiebreaker over the Bengals over best winning percentage in conference games. The Chargers have the tiebreaker over the Bengals because they have the better winning percentage in conference games. Like, bro, you're just sitting here only being tied or even 1 game ahead. Anything can flip these things. And you say like, oh, okay, this isn't that. The Ravens only have 6 wins. Yes, they lead the division, but the Bengals are only 1 win behind them. So now maybe the Ravens lose a bad game, or they lose to the Bengals. They may flip flop from 4th to 9th as well.
Absolutely, but we've said it before. At least now we know that Mark Andrews is playing. We haven't had for fantasy owners Mark Andrews for the last couple of weeks.
Sure, but if you're the Ravens, you need Mark Andrews to beat the Panthers. If the answer is yes, then you don't deserve to be a playoff team.
Oh, 100% by that. I don't think the Ravens are a playoff team right now. On paper, yeah, sure, you could say you're a playoff team, but they would be eliminated right away. Lamar Jackson at first.
But you would say the same thing, if I told you, like if I went through the playoff matchups right now, you would have the Dolphins playing the Patriots in round 1.
Dolphins win.
So you tell me the Patriots are done. You'd have the Titans playing the Bills.
Ooh.
How do you feel about that one? The one team is Derrick Henry, one team is Josh Allen.
But you could end Stephon Diggs.
Someone good's going home.
Yeah,
And
100%.
then
That's a
the other
shootout.
matchup would be Ravens Jets. And
But
as
how
bad as the
but
Ravens play in the fourth quarter, you can't say
mhm.
that the Jets are out of that game.
But
And
that's
then
what
you
I'm
go,
saying. You wouldn't say that in the beginning of this season, you would say that the Ravens, on paper, would beat the Jets in the beginning of the season. But as the season has progressed and Wilson has shown what he can do over there, and the Jets have a nice defense, even though it's broken down right now. But like you said, the Ravens right now can't get it done in the fourth quarter. So in that matchup, yes, I would say that the Jets would beat the Ravens.
I
That's
really
why.
wish the playoffs started today because these NFC matchups are great.
What are please?
So Vikings 49ers. Even though the
Which is a
Vikings are
good
8-1, can you definitively say the Vikings would beat the 49ers?
no, but that's what I'm saying. That's a good matchup. I like
Of
that.
course. Your 3-6 matchup though is the Seahawks and the Cowboys.
Ooh.
It gets better after that
Are
one.
we are
So,
we 100? Are we talking 100% healthy teams here?
well, that's the problem. I'm saying
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If
if
we're
the playoffs
talking
started
100%,
today,
100% teams, I'd say Dallas. But if we're weakened down or whatever, debatable. What's the last one?
the Bucks and the Giants.
God,
So now
that
you have Tom Brady in the playoffs, which is a whole nother animal who knows how to win in the playoffs,
Tom Brady.
facing Saquon Barkley, who's been a monster, and Daniel Jones.
And to
So
no offense, the Giants who can
tell
crush them in big moments.
tell
Giving
me there's not intrigue in that would be matchup.
no,
You have
you
Tom
nailed it,
Brady
sir.
versus essentially an upstart Giants team,
To see if the
and a
Giants
Giants
roll to
team
stay. Yep.
that has 7 wins where the Bucks have 5.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think that the Giants would be the better team anyway. But let's get out of this nonsense that have been rambling on about playoffs that don't start for a while anyway. But just
Listen,
looks
I
good on
let you
paper.
go. I loved every minute of it.
Well, I had
Lions.
to make up for the 28-minute show last week. I had to put a little in depth into this one. I had
Oh
to get
dear.
it going. So now we got playoff talk already
There we
in
go. See,
November.
only here live every Friday at 6:30. Lions going against the Giants. In all fairness, Saquon Barkley, if he does his thing, this is another Giants dub.
You would think so, but again, like we said, the Lions play every game tough. They're not just gonna roll over and say, "Oh, we're playing a 7-win Giants team." We're packing it in. We know the Giants are gonna come to play. St. Brown was really good again last week. We need to get Swift going. They said, which I feel like they said last week as well. I could be wrong. Maybe it was meant for this week that there'd be no restrictions on Swift. Swift only had 6 carries last week, so I need more Swift. He's your franchise back. I know Jamal Williams having a great year. It's not like he can't be used, but I need more of Swift if they even have any kind of shot.
I mean, at the end of the day, when I look at this on paper, I see Jonathan. I see Swift versus Saquon Barkley, and it's going to be the battle of the running backs. So you're going to see that Swift, fantasy owners taking him very early on in fantasy this year. Really not been working out to the extent. Some good games, some bad, but you need Swift to have a good game here. But I think this Giants defense, this defense can hold, and I think this offense will put up its numbers. I think Saquon is fighting to show why he's going to get that big contract at the end of the year, because that's what we're playing for at the end of the day. So I think the Giants will uphold, but it will be a running back battle. So I recommend playing both. I know Swift might not be the best option on paper where it's looking on fantasy lately, but I think that he will have a good game, especially against New York. That's just my thoughts, but I do think that the Giants will win 21-20. You look confused.
Only because I'm trying to delete something on my laptop while waiting for you to get into the next game.
Ravens. Oh, God, Jesus. Raiders versus the Broncos. Broncos are at home. Not like that matters. Not like this game matters. Let's talk about how this is going to be a train
So
wreck.
we're gonna. It is. There's nothing to even talk about. Can Russell Wilson get it going? Can the Raiders finally win a game for Josh McDaniel? Whatever. If Devontae Adams is in play, then Denver should win. But every time Denver should have won, they've lost. So, yeah, fuck both teams this year. They're both disappointed.
That is facts. This game is definitely this is gonna be one of those 9-6 games, Joe. Right?
It's the way these two teams play. It certainly could be. You saw last week it was 17-10 in a game that they were in. So
Well, if we go from 9-6 in this game, let's go for 45-42 when we have the Cowboys in this big fire offense versus the best team, in my opinion, right now in the NFL. Pound for pound, the Vikings.
what are they? They lost to the Eagles, so it's hard to make that claim. They lost to the Eagles, and the Eagles beat the Cowboys. Not that we're saying the Cowboys are the best team, but
Okay, Miles
it
Sanders.
goes full circle. So let's just circle around.
Mhm.
You get that full circle. Eagles beat the Vikings, so that by default makes the Vikings better. The Eagles beat the Cowboys, so if the Cowboys beat the Vikings, then that literally shows that the Eagles are essentially 2 games the best team in the NFC. The Vikings beat the Cowboys, they're right there with the Eagles. And you're still having this argument, but reality is the Eagles beat the Vikings, so that is that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So unless they're playing again in the playoffs, or the records, as long as they have the same record, the Eagles are better. That I guess that's the argument. If we get to a full circle where the Cowboys beat the Vikings and the Eagles have beaten the Vikings, then the Vikings are done. In that sense, like winning the NFC floor, because the number 1 seed gets a bye.
Mhm.
So you want that. You're 8-1, they're 8-1. You want that. You're not just, oh well, we won the division. Yeah, great. You probably won the division already. Cool, but you want that first round bye.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what teams strive for. And like I said, yeah, on paper, the Eagles have beaten the Vikings. We're not talking about that. But we're also talking about this Vikings team. Any team can lose. God, look at last year with Buffalo. Who'd have thought Jacksonville would have won that 9-6 throwback right there? But we have a Vikings team with arguably the best wide receiver matching up against a young, great wide receiver in Lamb. So in that argument, you can cancel them out if you go with me on this, right?
I'm with you.
Okay. So we got that. So let's look at backups. Michael Gallup versus Alan Thielen.
We're apples and oranges. Adam Thielen hasn't done shit either. They both
But
suck.
that they cancel out, correct?
Sure.
So now we have Tony Pollard because Zeke still is going to be that running back too. They've already said it. Pollard is their guy. So you have him, good old Tony versus Dalvin Cook.
Okay, so which one do you tell me is better? Because you can't compare the season full stats, because one's been the starting running back the whole season, the other one's been a backup essentially.
For years, I understand that. I get that. So my question there is, and you can go call me I'm crazy. I understand, ladies and gentlemen. You're at home, but you have a veteran a veteran running back in Dalvin Cook, and that is the difference maker of this game. I still think it will be 45-42. I think that the boys will get their playthings, but at the end of the day, you have Kirk Cousins versus Dak, which both can be argued that they're basically could have the same type of game. They could throw big, but they could also make interceptions. That is why I have to say that I think Dalvin Cook is the running back that will be the difference maker. I don't know what your thoughts are, but those are mine, sir.
So, if you want to argue who's the better running back, and like I said, one's been a backup for at least half the season. Dalvin Cook is 8th in the league in rushing.
Okay.
Tony Pollard's 13th. Tony Pollard has 42 less attempts than Dalvin Cook, and only has 100 less yards. And he averages 6 yards a carry. So let's do that math. He has 100. He has 42 less rushes, averaging a yard more. He one averages 5 yards, one averages 6. Just as simple as that. He averages more yards per attempt. So if you took the full season, if they had a full season with a full attempts and all that, Tony Pollard's numbers would be better.
I agree.
So yes, Cook.
But we're talking about that big game feel here. That's where I'm going with it. The veteran, that's the difference maker.
Sure, but Dalvin Cook's had plenty of duds. unfortunately.
I agree.
Where Tony Pollard this season in the three or whatever games he started, they were not duds. We'll give Dalvin Cook the benefit of the doubt. Against the Commanders, he had 17 carries for 47 yards. This is a team that, could sneak into the playoffs and you may end up playing in the first round. You couldn't run on them. Against the Eagles, that team that beat him, he had 17 yards rushing. So I'm not even saying like good teams shut him down, because yes, the Eagles were a good team, but Washington's 5-5. Yeah, he lit up Arizona for 111 yards. Congratulations. He lit up Detroit for 96 yards. Congratulations. He had 77 against the Dolphins, who were pretty good. Okay, 70. I'm not saying 77 is bad, but 77 is not 120. So I need to see bigger games out of Cook if they're to be legit.
No, I 100% agree. 100% agree.
I just feel like if I had to right this minute, if you told me like this was a playoff matchup and I had to pick this game, whether it's in Minnesota or not, right this minute, played as is, like if this were a playoff game, even though the Cowboys choked last week, I think they have more talent because the Cowboys defense is so much better than the Vikings defense. One team says 8-1, which lends to believe that their defense is pretty good too, but the Cowboys defense is after you. And you don't feel that threat from the Vikings. Maybe they're just sneaky, under the radar good type of deal, but you don't get that. Like every week we're talking about, oh, Micah Parsons, oh, this guy, oh, that guy. You don't hear any of that from the Vikings. I'm looking up their stuff right now just to be that
like
I'm
I said,
not an
this
idiot.
is definitely. I think we could put the stamp on this game, Joe, as being the must-game watch this week.
I mean, anytime we've thought that, it hasn't always lived up to par. But this is a big game for both teams because one team's playing for the number 1 seed, and then the other team, again, 5 wins is the cutoff for the playoffs, and Dallas has 6 wins.
Especially with an easier matchup for the Giants.
The Minnesota Vikings defense gives up 381.2 yards per game, better than the Houston Texans, Atlanta Falcons, and Detroit Lions.
That's it.
That is it.
Okay, thank you for that.
So that is why, yeah,
You go with the
8-1 looks
Cowboys.
really, really good, but you're giving up almost 400 yards a game, and you've got CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard on the other side. I don't care if Mike Gallup doesn't do anything. You're going to tell me that CeeDee Lamb's going to put up $150 again, and Tony Pollard's going to average 6 yards a carry on 22 carries again. This time, I feel like the Cowboys are winning that game. The Packers have a top 10 defense, so I understand why they got shut down. If Dallas goes into that game up 14 going into the fourth quarter, yeah, they have the offensive firepower to make it work, but they don't have the defensive firepower to stop the Cowboys from making that work. So let's see points.
I still, like I said, it's that big game feel. I like I said, I agree with you. This could, I think, will be a slobber knocker. It's definitely, hopefully, going to be the game to watch.
That would be the hope. Yeah, absolutely.
Cincinnati Bengals going against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So again, another must win. The Bengals right now are on the outside looking in. We're getting deeper in the season. Jamar Chase is not going to play this week, but they expect to have him back next week. So you don't have Jamar Chase. You're not a playoff team right this minute. You need to find a way to win against a team that's obviously not very good. Their quarterback has 2 touchdowns on the season. So let's go, Joe Burrow. You got a week of rest. The boys got some rest. Let's go, Bengals. Show why you were the other team in the Super Bowl. Look better than the team that won the Super Bowl, at least.
Absolutely, absolutely. What you said. It definitely, they got to make something work over in Cincinnati, and I think the bye week's definitely got to help them. The question is, do we get the consistency that we come to expect from fantasy owners from Najee Harris against this Cincinnati Bengals defense. Always in projections around 10 or 11. Doesn't go fancy, just does his job, and you can rely on him. But playing against this all coming off a bye week Bengals, yeah, you still don't have Chase, but you still have the weapons. You could still make it work. Joe Burrow, even though I have him in fantasy, and 9 times out of 10, if I didn't have to, I would play him in this matchup against the Steelers. I believe it will be a 21-14 Bengals win. Actually, no, I've been too generous lately. Let's go 21-3 Bengals.
That's a big swing.
Damn right it is. The Chiefs going to the Chargers. What do we see here? Does the Chargers figure out what's going on with Eckler?
Well,
Keenan
this is a
Allen? What's going on?
prime time game, so maybe they get their full complement of players back. But again, Chargers are also on the outside looking in, so we know who this is a bigger game for. So let's see if the Chargers got anything. Can they make a run to get in the playoffs, or the Chiefs just gonna stomp all over them like the Chiefs? I'm not saying they've done all the time, but the Chiefs have had.
The Chiefs are doing their thing.
Yeah, the Chiefs do their thing. The Chiefs.
They know what works for them. They do it. They get the win. It might not be flashy, but they get the win.
And usually they beat those teams. The Chiefs have already beaten the Chargers once. Granted, it was only by 3, but they've already beaten them once. So can the Chargers rebound from that? Can, like you said, Eckler do anything running the ball would be nice. Yeah, we know he can catch the ball, but with the other two big boys expected to play, he doesn't need to be as relied upon in the passing game. So let's get some balance going, Chargers. Let's stay in it. As a Jets fan, obviously I want these teams to lose so that the Jets, can make the playoffs. But realistically, like I said, bigger game for the Chargers.
Absolutely, but I don't think that's going to stop good old Patrick Mahomes. And we're going to go. I started a little bit earlier, but we're going to go back to the wonderful world of tight ends. We talked about Mark Andrews. We're going to talk about good old George Kittle in a minute. But Travis Kelce, fantasy owners, just saying, it's been hurting us a little bit with getting those points. He does get last week. He got a couple yards, no touchdown. You want that big touchdown from Travis Kelce.
Oh man, yeah, because that game where he had like 24 yards and 4 touchdowns, didn't do anything for Travis Kelce owners.
No, I'm just saying, as a top tier tight end, the number 1 tight end, you expect your points. When I got that with Gronk, every week I was getting my 15 to 20 points, those touchdowns.
Majority of the weeks, I would say. But if you're going to try and tell me that
everybody has a bad game, but against this Chargers team, I think this is a good way for Travis Kelce not to go batshit crazy. I'm not asking for 4 touchdowns. I'm not. I'm asking for a nice 40-yard game with a touchdown. 2 touchdowns.
This just makes it feel even better.
What'd you got?
So, you're complaining over here that Kelce's not doing anything and he's useless already and all this. Travis Kelce's 7th in the league in receiving, and he's a tight end. So that's nice.
Okay.
Guess who's 8th in receiving?
I'm going to go with good old Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is actually 6th, right ahead of Travis Kelce.
God damn it. Give me the name.
Well, let me just throw this back too. So 10th, by the way, is CeeDee Lamb in receiving.
Okay.
8th in the league in receiving. So let me just sidetrack again. If I listed you, obviously Jamar Chase has been hurt, so he's down there further. But if I were gonna throw you names like Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, Travis Kelce, whichever, you want to take all those names. Who do you think would be up there? You would probably, your head would probably go to Mike Evans, right? Maybe Christian Kirk. But It's Terry McLaurin. And guess what? I heard all about all the Terry McLaurin sucks. He doesn't do anything. Why? And there he is in the top 10 in receiving, 3 yards behind Travis Kelce.
Because we have Heineke at quarterback.
Exactly. So think about it. That was like his built-in handicap where he played half of his games with Carson Wentz as quarterback and is still in the top 10 in receiving. Hill, just so we know, Hill is 1, Jefferson's 2. That should be without
Really?
saying.
I thought it would be reversed. Nothing against. I thought it would be close. Like, what are the numbers? Do you have like the exact yards?
Yeah, it's 1148 for Hill, 1060 for Jefferson, 985 for Diggs,
Okay.
878 for Waddle. And then the
Okay.
guy who's 5th just got hurt and is out for a while is Cooper Kupp, which should be fairly obvious.
Yeah, but that
as well.
top 5 makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so now obviously Adams and Kelce and presumably McLaurin and probably Brown and Lamb will jump up past Kupp by the time he comes back. So, but like we said, Jamar Chase is still 16th in receiving, and he's been out for how long now? So, you know, there's things plays to be made at receiver / tight end because of Kelce this year. We know Mark Andrews missed some games. Dallas Goedert's 22nd in receiving as a tight end. T.J. Hawkinson, again another tight end. He's 30th in the league in receiving, and he hasn't even been great this year. Mark Andrews, again, like we said, got hurt. He's 31st in receiving.
Mm-hmm.
So the tight ends, the top 3 tight ends are still doing their thing. Just the names might have been different. You might have thought Kittle. For some reason, you might have thought Waller, but Goddard's come up there. We knew Mark Andrews is up there, so now it's Kelce, Andrews, and Goddard instead of Kelce, Andrews, Kittle.
Makes sense. But like I said, Kittle owners definitely be hurting. So we'll jump right to that. The 49ers going on the Monday night game against the Cardinals. Yeah, the only issue I have, like I said, I understand San Fran's doing their thing, but San Fran, you have a lot of weapons right now, and you need to utilize all these weapons. And
the only bad game Kittle's had, just throwing it out there.
When he's played, because he hasn't played for a number of weeks, obviously.
Kelce, not Kittle.
Oh, I thought you used to.
You were ranting about Kelce. The only bad game, and we're gonna air quote bad. The worst game he's had this season. He's still got 8 fantasy points. His worst technical game this year was 5 catches for 51 yards. His worst receiving yardage game, he had 4 touchdowns in. So Kelce's been an absolute monster because he either gets you 100 yards or he gets you 50 plus with a touchdown. You get one or the other. And some of these games, obviously, you've gotten both because he had 121 and a touchdown, 92 and a touchdown, 81 and a touchdown. So if you're a Kelce owner, whether it's a dynasty league or whatever, you jumped the line to get him, good on you this year. He's definitely paid off for you. But anyway.
I just wanted to hear you say it.
Enough of the Chiefs. Fuck them.
49ers, Cardinals. Let me hear it.
Well, so again, this game looks like garbage because Kyler Murray, let's get his name correctly, Kyler, might be out again.
I'll tell you.
But as we talked about last week, the offense looked good with Colt McCoy. So maybe that'll actually help them.
Game time decision.
Yeah, but it seems like he's leaning towards not going. Which makes logical sense. Call of Duty is out, so that does, put more stress on your hamstring. You may have to take the week off to, get a few extra games in. The stupid side note of this game is technically, if the Cardinals win, they're tied with the 49ers for the last wildcard spot. Assuming the Commanders lose, but I believe they were playing the Texans, so that probably won't happen. But realistically, as we talked about before, the 49ers are the 7th and final playoff team, and the Cardinals have 4 wins, and they have 5 wins.
I mean, Kyler Murray's probably not playing, as we said. So it's time for San Fran to show their weapons.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
You
again,
have
and it's
so many.
it's not because I'm a Mitchell owner. It's more of like if you want your team to have the longer stretch of success, like a deeper playoff run, I think you need Mitchell to stay involved.
Mhm.
And then if he gets hurt, you have McCaffrey type of deal. But as many people said, Debo Samuel needs to be more involved. That's more the bigger issue. It's not that Eli Mitchell outrushed McCaffrey, had 4 extra carries in him. That's not the issue. The issue is Debo Samuel's not been Debo Samuel. I understand that, you know, you don't want him running as much as he did last year, but you would think you'd get him the ball on like screens or something a little more often
Mhm.
just so he can get going.
I agree. But that's what I hope to see from this game, because you have a team that will probably not have your quarterback with you. And it is something where the 49ers need to show up.
That they do.
And by showing up, I
And I mean,
feel
they
like
should.
Debo will be the answer. But what do I know? I know nothing, sir. But
Heard.
that is your week 11 predictions. And that is the show. As always, you can check out us every Friday at 6:30 here on YouTube, here on Facebook, and here on Twitch. Of course, drop a comment. Fantasy knowledge. You know Joe knows his stuff. He'll give you the best fantasy knowledge.
Yeah, those trade deadlines are coming up, so if you got any questions, you got to get them in soon because your league trade deadlines may be this week because we pushed ours back. Ours is next week, which is coming up obviously as well.
Yeah, but we don't trade in that league.
That is true.
So thank you all for watching. Mr. Joe, always appreciate you joining me, sir. Until
Yes,
next
sir.
week, everybody.